Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Ray. I am a detransition male, and today we are going to be reacting to leftist YouTuber, Twitch streamer, political commentator Hasan Piker, who made some comments on trans athletes. And I just wanted to respond to this because I feel like it illustrates a common sort of defense of the trans athlete inclusion or the inclusion of trans women in the female sports category that I think is so completely wrongheaded, but is very pervasive in the leftist community. Let's watch the video and see what he has to say.
You can't pick a side, pussy. You can't pick a side.
Well, but you
Being a
have,
se-
but you have on the abortion issue. You have picked a side. You
I don't
think that
believe that.
women.
I don't believe that biological men should play in women's sports.
Okay, so you have. So okay, so
Does that
again,
make me a fucking a ferocious right winger? I don't think that biological men should play women's sports.
I am going to pee really quickly, and I'm going to talk to you about
don't
that.
leave me on that. Don't leave me on
Okay,
that.
well, here's the thing.
Don't leave me on that.
Just like what you just said
Yeah.
about third trimester abortion.
Oh, here we go.
Just exactly the same principle exists for the concept of like biological men playing in women's sports.
What do you mean by that? It's not a thing, or it's incredibly rare.
No, not only is it incredibly rare, but also beyond that, it is simply designed as a talking point that is divisive because the conservative movement's overarching goal is to erase trans people from public existence
and to drive fear. I'm
Yes.
with you.
Now I can tell you the exact. I can detail the exact lobbying groups.
I've seen the commercials on television.
The exact lobbying groups that actually came up with this narrative. In 2015, 2016, North Carolina wanted to implement a bathroom bill. They said trans women should not be allowed in women's restrooms. Okay? This was before Donald Trump. I mean, right around the time when Donald Trump was running for president, actually, 2016.
Sure.
Donald Trump back then said, the fuck are you guys doing? Let people piss wherever they want to piss. Caitlyn Jenner can come piss in Trump Tower in the women's restroom. Yeah, basically. I don't care. You know why Trump said that?
Because he was pandering, probably?
Well, not only that, but Trump is a very good room reader. He reads the room very well.
Right.
Because at the time, everyone was like, the fuck do you mean trans women can't piss in the women's restroom?
Right.
That's fucking idiotic. Like, what are you talking about?
How do what they want to do?
How are you going to figure out who's a trans woman and who's not, first of all? Like, that's insane, right? This would be impossible to enforce anyway, and it's just like a really stupid restrictive law. The public actually was very upset at this bill even being passed or even being talked about. Hollywood said that they would pull support from the entire state. They would never actually, they would never have a single set on the state ever again. Like entire industries were very upset about it. And the collective consciousness realized that this was a silly ass way to try and shit on trans people. The Republicans learned their lesson from that. They went back to the drawing board because the ultimate goal was always to vilify trans people and say that they're like pedophiles, and say that they're like harming children.
Which is ridiculous. Yeah. See, like,
but that narrative is also, again, a normie like yourself, you're not going to fucking agree with that. You're going to be like, I know trans people. That's fucking ridiculous. You're being, a monster for saying such a thing.
For sure.
Right? But a normie like you, they found out because they focus tested this. A normie like you cares about what? Sports. Sports is, listen.
To an extent.
Sports in the way that it is designed in the American consciousness.
Right.
Is one of the only areas where we can actually come close to a real meritocracy. Okay? There is no world in which if LeBron isn't the fucking GOAT, he's actually getting a top billing, right?
Right.
Because it is meritocratic, ultimately. So there is a baked in concept, a principle of fairness in sports that people believe and abide by.
For sure.
So they realized if you want to be anti-trans, you have to pair that up with an area, with a narrative of fairness. Trans people participating in sports is unfair because trans women are actually stronger than cis women, what you called biological women. And trans people are actually indecently trying to maliciously enter the arena of sports.
I don't think that's the case.
No,
I know you're not saying that, but I'm just saying,
that is
I
how
don't
they
agree. I don't
presented
agree.
it.
Yeah, I don't
That's
agree
how
with
they presented it.
I think they're just trying to fit into go ahead, sorry.
And here's the thing. That was a phenomenally successful narrative, because if you look at the actual approval ratings of such an marginal, such an incomprehensible thing that no one should ever even think about beyond unless you were constantly prodded to think about it, you would never think about it. This issue basically was hammered in to the public consciousness as a deliberate mechanism to write anti-trans bills, which were very damaging, not only to the small 2 or 3 trans students that were participating in athletic competitions in some states like Kansas, there was literally 4 trans girls that were participating in competition.
Let me just go. Sorry. It was the bill was dangerous.
But beyond that, it actually harmed in places like Ohio cis women, because they implemented, how are you going to figure out who's trans and who's not? They literally started saying that they were going to push for bills like penis inspection day. It sounds like a fucking joke, but you have a Republican Party that was now pushing for bills to say, if a parent in the opposing team decides that like there might be suspicion that there's a trans girl playing on the opposing team, then someone has to come in and check that if they're trans or not.
Ridiculous. But my point is to call a problem scarce or rare and use that as a rationale to avoid the discussion, especially for a situation that is becoming, as you can tell based on statistics, more and more of a prevalent problem over the not a prevalent problem, more of a prevalent issue over the short term here. It's a situation that needs to be discussed. Like it's like, okay, if you have a child and
see, someone in the chat said it, the fact that it is rare makes it not a problem though. Well, I guess I thought he was trying to say the fact that it's rare does not
make it not a problem. Not a problem. Does it make it a point that it needs to be a massive talking point that defines the community? Absolutely not. Well, and to your point, like this shouldn't be harming.
Conservatives are very good. My point was conservatives are very good at building up imaginary problems
for sure
that correspond to their broader ideological goals.
Okay, so I think we saw enough there. And what I want to do now is share something else, which is a very interesting, let's see. So this website here called shewon.org. So this is a website that catalogs all the times that female athletes have been displaced by males in women's sporting events at other competitions expressly for women. So, and this site has preliminary data. So this is not a comprehensive database. This is just, preliminary data. It is an incomplete data set. Yet there have been 620 female athletes, 879 medals and or records, scholarships, and other opportunities, 423 competitions across 28 different sports. All of these accomplishments from female athletes have been stolen by males competing in the female category. Now, you can sort of say that, oh, that's still not a big deal. That's rare. This is, you're blowing it out of proportion. Well, tell that to these 620 female athletes. And like I said, this is an incomplete database. And you can see here, like all these, issues where, you can say, oh, well, that doesn't matter because trans women are women. Well, sports are based on bodies, not identities. Like sporting events is about bodies. And the thing about why I wanted to talk about this is because Hasan Piker acknowledges that trans women have a biological advantage, but says that it's still not an issue because it's rare. And this is just a conservative talking point in order to sort of make some broader ideological point, and that this was cooked up by conservative think tanks in order to win elections because the bathroom policy thing didn't go through. So really we shouldn't actually care about this because it's a non-issue and it's just like a right-wing talking point. Well, this is wrong-headed because in sports, we care about principles of fairness. We care about opportunities and scholarships and medals and records being taken away from women. We care about that. We should care about that in and of itself. But the ideological point actually is important because it illustrates a really important point, because even though Hasan said that trans women have a biological advantage in virtue of being male, being born male and having gone through male puberty, a lot of trans athletes or a lot of trans people, a lot of trans activist allies, they deny even that basic point about reality. So it comes down to a matter of ideological gaslighting based on this Judith Butler queer theory type approach that erases the difference between males and females and says ultimately the difference between males and females is socially constructed, and that there is no actual real ontological difference between males and females, that we just, made it up. And that if you think that there is a, inborn biological advantage that trans women have as in virtue of going through male puberty, that, you're somehow like a bigot, or you're hateful, or you're engaging in like hate speech. It is now considered hate speech by many trans activists to call trans women male. To point out that a trans woman is male is now considered hate speech by many trans activists. I just saw on Twitter the other day some big trans activist was seriously contemplating. This was Grace Lavery, was seriously considering like suing someone for calling her male, which is crazy. Like, this is the broader point, is that we are being gaslit by these trans activists, by these radical queer theorists, to sort of deny basic biological reality. And Hassan does have a point insofar as the Republicans did seize on this, because the issue in sports, it's meritocratic, because you can just use your common sense and realize that, hey, if LeBron James, if he came out tomorrow and said, "Oh, I'm trans. I've been struggling with gender dysphoria my entire life. I've known I was a woman inside since I was 5 years old, and I'm going to start my transition. I'm going to start my hormones." Like, if LeBron James transitioned tomorrow, by all the logic of trans activism, they would have to say that not only is LeBron James 100% a woman, that he would have no, she, Lebrana James would have no biological advantage over females, because somehow, they were just like, oh, well, there's a lot of variation within the female category. And, actually, Lebrana James is just an example of, female variation, and there's more variation within the female category than across the male and female category. And the difference between males and females is entirely socially constructed, and when you go on hormones, it like erases all the biological advantage, and the concept of fairness is like completely, basis. So what I'm trying to get at is like the reason why the sports narrative is effective for the quote unquote anti-trans, or another way to say anti-trans on this issue, is pro women, pro females, pro fairness, pro reality, pro epistemology, pro objectivity, pro science. you know, it's not anti-trans, it's pro all those things. But they're sort of trying to gaslight us into thinking that we don't know what's the difference between a man and a woman, that we don't know what's the difference between a male and a female, that we don't, that we can just intuitively see that there is, dimorphism between males and females, that as a whole, as a category, statistically speaking, across these broad averages, that males are stronger than females, that there's just innate differences between males and females. But we're losing our ability to talk about this, because even within the left, which is Hasan Piker's community, it is taboo. Like, he actually broke with political correctness by even acknowledging that trans women have a biological advantage. But he's just saying, even if they do have a biological advantage, that's somehow like not relevant, or that's not important, even though, as we've seen, you know, hundreds of women are getting their records and accomplishments and scholarships and opportunities taken away by these males competing in the female category. And even if it was rare, that doesn't mean we shouldn't care about it. Like, if it was incredibly rare for people to cheat at sports by doping on drugs, that doesn't mean we wouldn't put in regulations to prevent doping in sports. Just because cheating is rare doesn't mean we don't care about cheating. And the fact that there's this debate in society between the progressive trans rights activists and everyone else in regards to whether or not it even counts as cheating, whether or not it even counts as, fair or not, that is the issue. Because this issue, the sports issue, it gets at a fundamental epistemological and ontological debate in regards to what is a male, what is a female. Do we know what those things are? Do those concepts refer to something specific in the world in regards to what is a women's sporting events? Like, who gets to compete in a women's sporting event? Well, what is a woman? Gets to the heart of the issue. This is why this is a bigger, broader ideological question, because in order to answer the question of who gets to compete in a women's sporting event, you first have to know what is a woman. And if a woman is anything other than an adult human female, then, we're going to run into a debate. We're going to have a debate in our society in regards to this issue, which is why this is a bigger issue. This is why it's not just, this niche little thing. And so Hassan is right that this is about broader ideological issues. But to say that these ideological issues are not important is ludicrous because, like, this actually matters when it comes to things like prisons. Okay, so you are a male and you just got convicted for a sex crime, or for murdering a female, and then now, like, after you got convicted, you start identifying as a woman. Which prison do you go to? Do you go to the women's prison or the men's prison? Well, we got to know what is a woman and whether or not identity alone is enough to get you into the woman's category. What about single sex changing spaces? Like, if Leah Thomas, as a trans athlete, is 100% a woman, 100% on par with all the other women, then logically speaking, Leah Thomas should be able to do all the things that the other females do in the women's locker room, such as get naked. All the other women can get naked. Well, why can't Leah Thomas get naked? She's a woman. She's 100% a woman. Well, if you're 100% a woman, you can do everything all the other women do. So when Leah Thomas walked into the women's locker room and dropped a trowel, being intact, exposing her penis to all the other females, was that okay or is that not okay? Well, if it was not okay, why? Well, it's because trans women are not the same as women. Trans women are trans women, and women are adult human females. But this actually gets at a fundamental ontological and epistemological question in regards to, do we know what a woman is in our society? And this impacts things like prisons, single sex, like changing rooms, like, sports, all these issues. Like, we need to know these things. Like, you know, if a and there's like numerous examples here, or like a crisis center for women. Like, if you are a woman and you just got, sexually assaulted by someone with a penis, is it appropriate for people with penises to like be in your bunk next to you, or is that going to trigger their trauma? We have to answer these questions. Like, who is a women's crisis center for? Is it for women, or is it for everybody who just identifies as a woman? We have to know the answers to these questions in order to construct a society that regulates things based on the difference between males and females. Because, like it or not, we do structure society based on knowing the difference between males and females. We treat males different than females. Why? Because males and females are different. Females can get pregnant. A male in a women's prison is a bad idea because that male can get women pregnant, particularly if that male has been convicted of a sex crime. We don't put women at risk of getting pregnant by putting people who can get them pregnant in the same room as them. Like, we have protections in society. The whole reason why we came up with the idea of segregating bathrooms in the first place was to protect females. Because why? Because females are at risk of sexual assault, because females can get pregnant. That is the fundamental defining reality in regards to these safeguarding conceptions. We need to safeguard these things. And so this debate, you can just say, oh, it doesn't matter, it's rare, blah, blah, blah. But, like, no, this actually is important because it structures how we form society. Okay, so that's what I wanted to say in this video. Thanks for watching. Take care. Bye-bye.